8. Kim Potter. Less than a year after the death of George Floyd at the hands of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin in 2020, an officer from the nearby Brooklyn Center Police Department was accused of killing a 20-year-old unarmed black man named Daunte Wright during a traffic stop. After pulling Wright over for an expired registration, police discovered that there was a warrant out for his arrest. He failed to appear in court on some previous charges. He was initially cooperative, but became resistant when an officer tried to handcuff him. Kim Potter, a 26-year veteran of the force, mistook her gun for a taser and discharged it twice on the young father, only to realize immediately afterward that she had used the wrong weapon. Wright died at the scene. Potter resigned shortly after the incident and faced criminal charges in connection with Wright's death. She was convicted of manslaughter and received a 2-year sentence, with the first 16 months to be served in prison and the remainder on supervised release. The disgraced former cop received a light sentence because she seemed genuinely remorseful for her actions and was deemed to be at very low risk of reoffending. But the punishment was a far cry from justice for Wright's parents. They described the sentence as a slap on the wrist and were left feeling disappointed, angry, and let down by the system. And it's understandable. After all, 2 years seems like an incredibly small price to pay for taking someone's life. 7. Alexis Rogers. Alexis Rogers was released from a New Mexico jail in 2018 while facing a murder charge for a road rage incident that resulted in the shooting death of a teenager. The incident reportedly occurred after another driver signaled that they were making a left turn but decided to go straight. They exchanged some heated words, and 19-year-old Rogers allegedly chased the vehicle. Her passenger is accused of firing the shot that killed the victim. Rogers was allowed to await her trial at home after completing an addiction treatment program and posting $150,000 bond, and was given a strict set of rules to follow, including no drinking or drug use and an 8 p.m. curfew. But she failed a drug test, and the court learned that she had recently thrown a wild party that ended with one person dead. The young woman's lawyer claimed that the gathering started out small but quickly spiraled out of control. Around 100 people showed up, and when Rogers began asking people to leave, a fight broke out. She was knocked unconscious, and a young man named Eduardo Lerma was shot and killed trying to protect her. The prosecution accused Rogers of showing a pattern of recklessness and non-compliance that left a trail of death and destruction behind it. Her bond was revoked, and she was taken back into custody for the remainder of her court proceedings. Rogers managed to avoid a murder conviction and pleaded guilty to lesser charges in exchange for a prison sentence of up to 3 years. The shooter also took a generous plea deal and was convicted of a shooting charge. The murder charge was dropped, and he faced a maximum sentence of 15 years. 6. Hunter High School shooter. In early 2022, a young man entered Hunter High School in West Valley City, Utah with a gun and fatally shot 2 students. A third victim was critically injured and spent 10 days in intensive care. Authorities charged the young shooter with a slew of extremely serious crimes, including 2 counts of felony murder, discharge of a weapon, obstruction of justice, possession of a weapon on school grounds, and possession of a weapon by a minor. Under normal circumstances, a suspect could easily spend life in prison under Utah law if convicted of the murder charge alone. For months, prosecutors said that they planned to move the case to an adult court due to the severity of the crime. But that never happened, which meant that there were strict limits on the punishments he could receive due to his age. The suspect initially pleaded not guilty. His lawyers argued that he committed the shooting in self-defense, citing a new state law that requires prosecutors to present clear and convincing evidence that a defendant's use of force was not justified. Court records suggested that the teen was involved in an ongoing dispute between 2 groups of friends, and that he had recently been threatened by a member of the rival group. While the exact circumstances of the shooting remain unclear, the young man ended up pleading guilty to 2 counts of manslaughter and a weapons charge as part of a deal with prosecutors. He'll be held in a juvenile detention facility until he's 21, amounting to roughly 6 years behind bars. One of the victim's relatives, Senior Male, told ABC4 that the family was heartbroken by the outcome. She said that they didn't think a life sentence was necessary, but that the seemingly light punishment left them without the closure they hoped for. After putting a lot of trust in the system, Male felt as if nobody truly fought for justice for the victims or their loved ones. 5. Taylor Benford and Ryan Paul. In September 2019, father of 2, Adam White, discovered a pair of burglars trying to break into his house in Bedfordshire, England, with a crowbar and bolt cutters. His wife and 2 children were also home at the time. White got into his SUV and chased the suspects as they fled on a motorcycle. He ran the pair off the road, and they were left with serious injuries, including a fractured skull, broken bones, and brain bleed. Police arrested the attempted burglars, Taylor Benford and Ryan Paul, and they also charged White for dangerous driving resulting in serious injury. White drained his savings, maxed out credit cards, and took out loans to fight the case, leaving his family in financial ruin. He was sentenced to 22 months in prison. In the meantime, Benford and Paul walked free with suspended sentences, despite their criminal histories, which include convictions for theft, dangerous driving, shoplifting, dealing drugs, and other offenses. After serving his time and being released, White shared his story on the documentary series 24 Hours in Police Custody. Donations poured in from sympathetic supporters who believed that he did not deserve to go to jail or have his life destroyed for protecting his loved ones. Someone launched a crowdfunding campaign to help White get back on his feet, and donations poured in from sympathetic viewers. After just one day, the collection was at £91,000, or $109,572, and growing. White was deeply grateful for the donations, which helped his family recover their losses after having their lives turned upside down by the case. After receiving more than £138,000, or $166,180, he posted a tweet stating that any further donations would be passed on to charity to honor the loss of his baby that he and his wife experienced just a month after the home intrusion gone wrong. 4. Cali Kuhas. 35-year-old father of 3, Bill Davis, was fatally struck by a drunk driver in 2016 while riding his bike in North Boulder, Colorado. It was the day before his 12th wedding anniversary, but instead of celebrating, his widow, Brianne, spent the day grappling with the news of her husband's death. The driver, Cali Kuhas, fled the scene, but police soon caught up with her. In her car, they found a 30-pack of beer with only 5 cans unopened. At the time, she was on probation for a driving while ability impaired charge and had been arrested for DWI in another previous case that was ultimately dropped. Kuhas was convicted of vehicular homicide and received the maximum 12-year sentence, followed by 5 years of parole. But for Brianne Davis, who said that her husband received a death sentence for a choice he didn't make, it wasn't a long enough punishment. Throughout the trial, the defense repeatedly brought up Cali's mental health history and her time spent in rehab. At her sentencing, her family depicted her as a charitable Christian with a good moral compass. The young woman's father accused the media of sensationalizing the case, and even went so far as implying that by riding his bike on the road, in the designated bicycle lane, Davis was somehow being reckless and in the wrong. And while Cali's sentence may seem light, it's a good thing the justice system held her accountable in a situation where her family seemed hell-bent on excusing her behavior. 3. Jacob Feliciano and Dodi Zorilla. 41-year-old Felix de Jesus was visibly intoxicated one night in early 2022 as he wandered the streets of Paterson, New Jersey. after allegedly receiving reports that he was harassing a woman at a bodega. Police officers Jacob Feliciano and Dodi Zorilla handcuffed him and put him into the back of a police cruiser. He hasn't been seen since. The police department initially told concerned relatives that they had no record of contact with DeJesus from the night he went missing. They later acknowledged that he had been taken into custody and said that the two officers who dealt with him eventually released him and dropped him off at a local park at his request. Temperatures were freezing that night, and according to the troubled man's family, DeJesus was only wearing a t-shirt. They wanted to know why the police would leave him in a park when he wasn't dressed for the outdoors, and they grew increasingly suspicious of the department's version of events when they were denied the ability to watch body cam footage of the officers' interactions with DeJesus. The concerned relatives were also upset at the department's apparent refusal to treat the man's disappearance as a missing persons case or to investigate his whereabouts. Instead, the case is being handled by the nearby Haledon Police Department because that's where DeJesus lived, even though he was last seen in Patterson. Feliciano and Zorilla were suspended without pay for 90 days following a months-long internal investigation into the incident. According to NJ.com, the findings found them guilty of 10 policy violations and breaking rules regarding body cameras, patrol procedures, transporting citizens, and preparing and filing reports. While the DeJesus' family lawyer, Jeff Patty, described the disciplinary move as a step in the right direction, community members remained disappointed by a number of factors surrounding the case. In addition to her opinion that the officer's punishment is far too light for the severity and number of violations, journalist Daisy Calavia Robertson pointed out that the only reason the public has learned so much about the case is because of the DeJesus' family's continued push for answers. The controversy surrounding the disappearance comes amid years of disturbing incidents involving the Patterson Police Department, which have led to ongoing allegations of a lack of transparency, excessive use of force, and chronic mistreatment of marginalized community members. 2. Peter Crawford. After being a stay-at-home mom for 14 years, Katrina Wills re-entered the workforce as a sales associate at a liquor store in Queensland, Australia. It wasn't long before a problematic customer named Peter Crawford began making inappropriate comments toward her. Wills told Crawford to stop and made it abundantly clear that his behavior was unwelcome, but he continued harassing her. She began keeping a log, detailing each incident as Crawford's unwanted commentary escalated into more alarming acts, including following Wills to a walk-in wine cooler and blocking the entrance. Management eventually decided to ban Crawford from the store. The next time he came in, they handed him a letter informing him that he was no longer allowed there. Surveillance footage obtained by the investigative show A Current Affair shows Crawford ripping the letter up. He continued showing up at the store. When confronted by journalists, he claimed that Wills was exaggerating what he believed were polite compliments. But Crawford had a troubling history of bothering women, including previous criminal convictions. He also had a 7-page record of driving violations, which seems to reflect the same refusal to follow rules that he showed after being banned from the liquor store. Feeling fed up with the situation, Wills filed a police report and went to the media with her story. Authorities charged Crawford with unlawful stalking. He pleaded guilty and avoided jail time and a conviction, and was fined $400. The judge issued a 5-year restraining order banning him from contacting or going near Wills, but she was outraged by the lenient outcome of the case. The only reassurance she received was that Crawford would face more serious charges if he violated the restraining order, which she probably counted on happening given his history of treating rules as optional. 1. Brock Turner. In a disturbing assault case that made international headlines, 19-year-old Brock Turner attacked an unconscious woman behind a dumpster on the Stanford University campus in early 2015. 2 men caught him in the act while passing through the area on their bicycles and confronted him. Turner attempted to flee the scene, but the Good Samaritans pinned him to the ground until law enforcement arrived. Turner was arrested and banned from Stanford's campus for life. He fought the charges and tried to downplay the severity of his actions, but was convicted of 3 felonies. Prosecutors recommended a 6-year sentence, but the judge sentenced Turner to 6 months in county jail. He was released after serving just 3 months. The infamously light sentence sparked months of protests at Stanford University and widespread outrage as activists demanded Judge Aaron Persky's removal from the bench. They accused Persky of being influenced by race, gender, and class bias in his decision to go easy on Turner. The California Commission on Judicial Performance investigated the case and cleared the judge of any wrongdoing, and he retained his position until he was recalled by voters in 2018. While the justice system failed in the eyes of many, the Court of Public Opinion continues to hold Turner accountable. In 2022, TikTokers in the Dayton, Ohio area used social media to warn women that he was recently seen in local bars and to caution them against leaving with him. Thanks for watching. If a burglar damaged your home and stole your most valuable belongings, would you rather see the person walk away with no jail time or receive what seems like an excessively harsh sentence, which could potentially damage their life more than you think they truly deserve? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you soon. Bye.